sector in view in these brief remarks is ICT, Information Communications and Technology. It's a strategic sector in every country's economy, and if we look at the prevalence and the importance of the internet, data and computer networks in the contemporary global economy, that tells a lot of the story. In Nigeria,
distinguished participants, this is to announce the very arrival of the Honorable Minister of State for Science, Technology and Innovation, Chief Henry Iko. You're welcome, sir. Being accompanied by the performing Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, Mrs. Manimela Udo. Can we please rise up for Nigeria's national anthem, please? National anthem. Are you ready? Are you ready? After the count of two, we sing the very first stanza. 1, 2. Minister of State for Science, Technology and Innovation, our father, a political juggernaut, a leader of leaders, Chief Henry Iko. You welcome, sir. The Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, a great woman of substance, Mrs. Manimela Udo. Mommy, we appreciate your presence. Can we please put our hands together for them? At this point, I'd like to let us know that what we have gathered is actually to have some discussion on the Presidential Executive Order 5. And the discussion this afternoon, Your Excellencies, will be centered on 3 key areas. 1, historical background, compliance and parties to Executive Order Number 5, legal brief and complaints to appeal procedure, and lastly, provisions of Executive Order 5. At this juncture, I'd like to invite to the microphone respectfully the National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer, CTO Presidential Order 5, Engineer Ibrahim Obujofor, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, to please come to the microphone and shed more light on this. Can we please put our hands together for him? Sir, are we? Okay, yes. Okay.
The chairman's chairman opening remarks, she has to complete it.
Okay,
Then thereafter, goodwill messages before.
Okay. Now invite the representative of the chairman, Dr. Emeka Uranaka, to please come to the microphone respectfully and present the chairman's opening remarks. Sir, please a round of applause for him.
It's okay. Thank you, moderator, for another encore. Honorable Minister Pamsek, you're welcome. I'm delivering the remarks of Professor Azikiwe Peter Onwalo, who is currently the Vice Chancellor of African University of Science and Technology here in Abuja, former DG Raw Materials Research and Development Council. And we acknowledge the contributions of the current administration led by President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, in organizing and supporting this STI Expo, which has been running for a while now, and this is the edition for 2023. And we also acknowledge the efforts of the Federal Ministry towards this event. We all know what the Executive Order 5 aims to achieve, which is the promotion of and giving preference to Nigerians and Nigerian firms in the public procurement process, especially as it concerns science, technology, and innovation. And given that this executive order is 5 years in operation, it's important to maybe just look at some critical STI sectors and see how far this order has gone in actualizing this presidential order, this presidential policy, and this presidential intention. The sector in focus is ICT, Information, Communications, and Technology, and it's a sector that covers the activities of both the Federal Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation, as well as the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. It's a strategic sector. Its contribution, the contribution of ICT has grown from 3% in 2001 to 18.44% in Q2 of 2022. And this means that the ICT sector is the fastest growing sector of the Nigerian economy in recent times. This sector, however, constitutes of 4 subsectors. You have telecommunications, you have broadcasting, you have publishing and motion picture, sound recording, and music production. Of these 4 subsectors in ICT, telecommunication makes up 9.49% of total GDP. And one nominal way to measure its effects is the increase in the number of phone lines in Nigeria. It's grown from about 400,000 active lines in 2001 to 204.2 million active lines in Q2 of 2022. So it's quite significant. Now, though this sector has grown, if you look a bit into it and in line with this presidential objective, there are a few things that come out from a survey conducted by Nigerian Communications Commission in 2018. You see that 23% of all software in use in this sector that has been growing, only 23% is local, is domestic, while 77% of software is imported. You would also see that in hardware, only 14% of hardware in use in this sector is domestic, while 86% is imported. And for the base transceiver stations, what we call base stations, just 12% is manufactured in Nigeria, while 88% is foreign. Now, so that's like hardware, tangible things. If you look at management as well, human resource, at top management, just 31% of top management staff in the ICTs in the telecom sector are Nigerians, while 69% are foreign. And it's impacted the sector in terms of motivation because just this last year, 2022, over 2,000 skilled telecoms experts migrated, what we call JABA. And so we can see that though that sector has grown, what economists will call jobless growth in some sector, in some way, Nigeria is yet to fully maximize the benefits of this ICT industry. And so that justifies the Presidential Executive Order 5 in seeing towards the full optimization and maximization of the benefits of science, technology, and innovation, as well as the digital economy for Nigerians and by Nigerians. Recently, 5G licenses were auctioned starting in December 2021, and MTN has rolled out services. You also have MAFAP Communications. In December of 2022, Airtel also won 5G licenses. Now, if you look at the details of MTN that has actually started 5G operations in selected locations in Nigeria, you also find that most of the components, most of the personnel are non-Nigerians. We are not xenophobic, but this goes contrary to the objectives of Presidential Order 5. And so, when you identify problems, the next question now becomes, what do you do? While we appreciate the imperative of attracting foreign investment into Nigeria, there are also other policies that have flowed from Executive Order 5 that maybe require new approaches to implementation. And given that our focus is on the telecom sector, one of those policies is the National Policy for the Promotion of Indigenous Content in the Nigerian Telecommunications Sector, NPPIC of 2021. Now, that policy led to the establishment of the National Nigeria Office for Developing the Indigenous Telecoms Sector. Note it. Now, an additional approach to implementing this policy could be the elevation of STI, Science, Technology and Innovation, to a foreign policy issue. That way, when issues that concern bilateral relations between Nigeria and major countries that deploy these telecommunications, these technology issues are being negotiated, the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs playing a role, but you also have the Federal Ministry of Science and Technology, as well as relevant ministries and agencies such as NOTAP, such as NIDA, such as NCC, playing a role in Nigeria's foreign policy. So what you would have when this STI and digital economy ministries and agencies, MBAs, are playing a role is that before Nigeria signs bilateral agreements, those who will be in charge of implementing this STI advantages for Nigeria are involved. They go through the draft agreements, and before we put ink to paper, we're sure that policies, we're sure that bilateral agreements are signed that favor Nigeria and that can be implemented. Now, Nigeria will not be out of place in adopting this approach. The USA, for example, just last year, they have the Chips and Science Act of 2022. Now, this legislation is worth $280 billion, and it provides significant funding and advantages for tech companies that will comply with US foreign policy objectives. And it also incentivizes the manufacturing of semiconductors and other new technologies in the US. There's also the Chip for Alliance, signed by the US government in just March 2022, that aims to bring together the three strongest semiconductor countries in the world, which are in Asia, which are Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. The aim of the alliance is to ensure that America's other major competitor, China, does not gain too much leverage in 5G technology as well as in the production of semiconductors. And so, given the challenges that come with new policies and new agencies, there are some platforms already that Nigeria can leverage to adopt this. One of these is the West Africa Telecommunications Regulators Assembly, which is convened and hosted in Nigeria, in Abuja headquarters here. So the Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, as well as NCC, can leverage on this assembly of regulators, telecoms regulators and technology regulators in West Africa, to ensure that Nigeria's position does not just gain, the Executive Order 5 does not just gain strength in Nigeria, but also across the West African sub-region. And so concurrently, while the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, as well as the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, is pushing from the STI angle, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs carrying such efforts through the Economic Community of West African States, which is ECOWAS. Now, with the application, so in conclusion, with the application of foreign technology towards the promotion of STI in Nigeria. We are hoping that when subsequent STI expos are conducted, we will find that the routers, the switches, the projectors, the semiconductors, the base stations, most of them are going manufactured by either Nigerians or Nigerian firms. And it's feasible, it's viable. In the telecommunications space, unfortunately, Globalcom, which is the only Nigerian-owned mobile network operator, is yet to win a 5G license. But you have companies that already have some of the wherewithal to champion that cause. For telecoms cables, you have Cortex PLC. For semiconductors, you have Family Group that could possibly start producing some of the hardware that we require. And so if that aim, if that objective is achieved, then we can see routers, switches, base stations, projectors, cameras being produced in Nigeria, then we can proudly say that the objectives of the Presidential Executive Order 5 have been achieved. But in doing that, we also note that Nigeria is a signatory to some protocols that affect the World Trade Organization as well as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And so what this just means is that while being protective, while being promotive, we also have to be conscious of some of these foreign policy obligations. And in recommending this presidential order, as well as the need for capacity building and awareness among stakeholders, I, on behalf of Professor Nwalo, would like to add that the African University of Science and Technology here in Abuja, as well as other knowledge centers, remain willing to contribute through research, development, and other activities in support of the Executive Order 5. Thank you all for listening.
There is a welcome address from the chairman's opening remarks as presented by Dr. Emeka Uwanaka. Please can we put our hands together for him? Thank you very much. He said a lot. At this point, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, wonderful participants, I'm humbled to invite to the microphone. We shall be going into what I call messages of goodwill. And at this point, I would like to invite to the microphone respectfully Sir Henry Etiama, Project Coordinator City, to please come to the microphone and present a message of goodwill. 120 seconds, sir. Can we please put our hands together for him? 120 seconds, please.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, the PAMSEC, the chairman of this occasion, ladies and gentlemen. We are happy to be here today under the auspices of the Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation to appreciate the power of science, technology and innovation that cuts across all activity sectors of the economy. And Nigeria's STI ecosystem is one of the largest ecosystem in the world. Given the type of government we have, that has both the federal, state, and the local government, and looking at the huge nature of our population and our economic space, Presidential Executive Order 5, from what the chairman has just said, laying emphasis more just in telecommunication or the ICT sector, then you can imagine what this ministry stands to also look at, from agriculture to mining to manufacturing, utilities, transportation, and services. So with this, the Executive Order number 5 will impact on almost every sector of the economy. The main purpose is to make sure that Nigeria joins the Asian Tigers to participate in the 4th Industrial Revolution be a powerhouse of the first industry production, and be able to feed its citizens through innovation in agriculture and industrialization. So what we have to do using this, and what we have been doing, is that Nigerians will take the destiny of this country in their hands through scientific research and development that is demand-driven, industry and services demand-driven, problem-solving R&D activities, and then need-based R&D activities in a manner that pure Nigerian indigenous industrialization could take place without depending too much on foreign technologies. And God had seen it that the President has given this ministry a further mandate to be the custodian of innovation matters in this country. So with innovation matters added to ST, science and technology, is taking Nigeria to the global arena by ensuring that the products of Nigerian origin, raw materials, products, and even services conform with international standards, so that Nigeria is embarking on international standardization of its products, from raw materials to products and services. We are looking at metrology, and we are subjecting every aspect of our production processes to regulatory bodies so that we can be able to play the game at the global village. So through direct foreign investment, through bilateral agreement, as the chairman has said, this ministry has the capacity to organize the STI ecosystem in a very orderly manner, that all players in that area should be able to contribute towards making Nigerian products, making Nigerian services conform with international standards, so that we can be able to create jobs and be able to leverage the potentials within the country to actually take care of our destiny. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Words from Sir Henry Etiama, Project Coordinator, City. Can we please put our hands together for him? Thank you very much, sir. At this juncture, I would like to invite the microphone to also come for 120 seconds presentation. Dr. Emeka Okenge. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Emeka Okenge as he comes to the microphone, please.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Honorable Minister, Madam. Each time I look at you and I want to announce you, I remember us in Lagos. And I remember that you came into a program where you were supposed to attend the plenary, and you stayed until everybody left and participated. That's a clear indication of the direction we're going. My big brother, my boss, I've been privileged to travel with you, and I've seen you hold meetings all through the night, and you hold it very passionately. I've walked around this stadium, or this environment. Everything I see points to the fact that the stars are aligning. So your choice in being in that ministry now, being a technology person yourself, is not by mistake. Your choice, sir, as a minister there, being a renowned industrialist, and being somebody who has also participated very effectively at the subnational, is also not a mistake. For me, I've been in this system for a very long time, and I can say to you for certain that what we need to do is to walk the talk. And the moment we are able to walk the talk, history will record you, the board ministers, the coordinator of the Presidential Order number 5, very kindly now. And I'll tell you why. There is no country in the world that has moved from where they were to where they can be without the full application and dependence on technology. And this is what you have given to Nigerians using the Presidential Order number 5. So So on behalf of Nigerians, I want to say thank you. But history will record you, and this will be more presently. Omar, who is the chairman of education, when he was DG of raw materials, I was external consultant to the ministry, and we were developing the work cluster concept model. I wish you were sitting down here. Sometimes we slept in my office up to 3 o'clock because we needed to get that paper to go to the Federal Executive Council. Today he's placed well, and I'm happy that AUST is also interested in collaborating. For everybody who is seated here, science is the way to go. And I remember, and I'm going to be closing on this, they asked a Chinese man, why don't you believe in God? He says, I believe in science, because science is his truth. And the man says, okay, if you believe in science and the process of science, then you believe in God. And he says, yes. If that science that you're preaching to me as your God, or your God you're preaching to me is the science that believes in the truth, then I believe in God. Science is alchemy, and alchemy is in the exoteristicals. So we need to be able to up our game a little more bit, madam. The little while we have this administration to go, I'd like us to close on a very firm understanding that the only way for us to be able to pull the 10 million people that the president wants out of poverty in the next 10 years is to begin to fully and completely tie to science, technology, and innovation. And the presidential order number 5, sir, has given me other mandates. Sooner than later, we will need to up that game very, very quickly. God bless Nigeria. God bless you.
Encouraging words, soothing words, encouraging words coming from Dr. Omeka Okengu, telling us that the 10 million Nigerians that Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, were just clear that we want 10 million Nigerians out of poverty. Attention must be given to science, technology, and innovation. Can we please appreciate him with a round of applause? Once again, Your Excellencies, thank you very much all. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be all for messages of goodwill. At this point, I'd like to invite, before then, I'd like to say something about Dr. Okengu. Dr. Okengu is actually going to present a paper which is titled Actualizing Effective Diversification of the Nigerian Economy through Science, Technology, and Innovation. That will be coming up during the technical session. Sir, we're waiting for you then. So at this point, I'd like to invite the Chairman, the National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of CITO Presidential Order Number 5, Engineer Ibrahim Obujiofo, fellow Nigerian Society of Engineers, to please come to the microphone respectfully and shed more light on the 3 main areas of Presidential Executive Order 5. Sir, come to the microphone respectfully, sir. Can we please appreciate him with a round of applause, please? We will be telling us on the 3 key areas, historical background and what have you.
Yeah. The Honorable Minister of State, Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, our dear Permanent Secretary, Directors and Director Generals, and everyone that is present here. We thank you for finding time to join us. This morning, I mentioned that I was welcoming all of you, crying on behalf of Nigerian youth and women, and some people laughed. But from what the chairman has said and all we have had so far, you can see that my crying at my age is not out of place. But I think the most important thing is for us to do all we can to remedy the situation that we find ourselves now, which is to take all necessary steps to put the Nigerian youth, industrialists, women, children, and so on at the center of Nigerian economy. And that is the way to go. So we have limited time, so we don't have to go too much into the full details of the papers that are mentioned here. But I can say that historically, the first executive order was signed in America long ago, and it was now something that they have continued to use to add value to their government. And for Nigeria, the first time that executive order has been signed by a civilian administration is under the present administration, which is President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. And it is on record that about 12 executive orders have been signed so far, and one of them has been dropped. So we don't need to dwell on the one that has been dropped. But I would like to say that executive order number 1 deals with promotion of transparency. Number 2 deals on budgets. Number 3 deals on support for local content in public procurement. Executive order number 4 is on establishment of voluntary assets and income declaration. And executive order number 5, which is the one we are handling now, is on planning, execution of projects, promotion of Nigerian content in contracts, and science, engineering, and technology. Now, I need not go through the list of all the presidential executive orders, because what we're actually doing is sensitization. But the important thing that you need to know, that the executive orders are legal instruments, and it is important that you pay attention to it. If you have not been reading and knowing and understanding what an executive order is, I think after now you should go and study the ones that have been signed in addition to the one that we are discussing now, so that you know the implications. The reason we have to say that you need to know the implication is that there are 3 parties involved in the implementation of executive orders, and your rule determines whether you are complying or not. And if you don't identify your role properly and know the party which you belong to, then it might be difficult for you to know what to do. The first party in the implementation of executive order is usually the executive arm of government. The second party is the general public. The general public are the ones that are the taxpayers, and they are the ones that the first party, usually the executive arm of government, where most of us here belong to, are responsible for provision of goods. And it is the second party that is responsible for measuring whether you are doing what you are supposed to do. That is why you will find a lot of discussions going on social media now. Most of the people you find in the social media, Twitter and all the rest of them are discussing are members of the second party. And if you look carefully at what they are saying, all their discussion is about whether the first party is doing well or not. And it is important that we know this, so that when the National Assembly or NGOs begin to write to inquire what you are doing in your office or what you are responsible for, as a result of being a public officer, then you have to know that it is something that they are doing that is normal. And there is every need to see that you understand your own role very well in order to play it properly, so that you won't be caught in between. Now we have the third parties in the implementation, which include the police, the police, the EFCC, the ICPC, they are the ones that are known commonly, because most public officers are the ones that are receiving interaction with all these ones. But don't forget that we also have the Bureau of Public Procurement that deals with, we have the police, we have the Standard Organization of Nigeria, and for Presidential Executive Order number 5, we also now have NOTAP that have some legal responsibilities, as well as Raw Materials Research and Development Council. It may also interest you to know that CTOPO 5 also have responsibility for examining and investigating the compliance with Presidential Executive Order number 5 and providing solutions and providing information to make things better, and where there is difficulty in following those directives or that advice, it may result to taking your issue to the Presidential Monitoring and Evaluation Council, chaired by Mr. President, where you will get a directive that is documented, that is to be made public on internet, as far as that directive is concerned, because at that point, it is not something that you can challenge. Now, I would like us to understand that for the purpose of implementing this order, there is constantly what we call us-to-us audit investigation within the members of the executive arm of government, where discussions are held as to whether we are doing what is correct or not, and wherever it is not correct, it is for management purposes. Arrangements can be made to correct what is not going on right. And of course, the second party is regarded as the customer or taxpayers or public beneficiaries audit, which is conducted again on the first party. And that is when you find people from National Assembly representing the public, sometimes saying that somebody is not doing right what he's supposed to do. And that argument, when it is drawn to the attention of the first party, which is headed by the President, it is very likely that that issue will be looked into and resolved. And if that issue is not resolved, then it becomes the business of the third party, which is either EFCC or police or any other third party investigating agency that is relevant to carry out investigation in order to determine whether what has been said is correct or not, and then the appropriate measures can be taken. But the unfortunate thing is that depending on who has conducted this audit, the outcome of the investigation may be something that is not palatable, because it can amount to you losing your job or not having promotion, or even sometimes being imprisoned because of the error that you have committed. So to that extent, I would like to advise all public officers to please pay attention to policies, procedures, and requirements for full implementation of Executive Order number 5 in this case. And if you know that we have more than 20 ministries, perhaps up to 28, each of these ministries have policies. And a lot of policies have been made for Nigeria from 1960 to date. It is important that you go and read each of those policies in order to understand what is said, because they are meant to be obeyed. And you need to know the importance of audit evidence as you do your work, which includes keeping records, keeping statement of facts which are relevant to the work that you are doing. Because whenever you are being investigated, it is based on this audit evidence. And you must understand that the purpose of audit is to see for you to see where you are and see if you are where you think you are or should be. What I mean by this is that perhaps I'm at the VIP stand now of this Eagle Square. For me to do an audit on myself in my location, I need to know and be sure that I'm here, because I might be thinking that I'm here when I'm at the Federal Secretariat in the office of the permanent secretary. And if you don't really know where you are, then you will find it difficult to know how to get to where you are. Because if I'm here and I'm thinking that I'm in the office of the permanent secretary and I'm now asked to go to the office of the Honorable Minister of State, you can imagine the direction that I will start going. I will miss the road. So you need to understand this. Audit is not always for punishment. Audit is for you to assess yourself and be able to know what you are doing in order to do the correct thing. It's also for standards, for understanding how to approach the use of manuals, procedures, work instructions, and of course, how to apply our laws and the Constitution. So all these are things that we need to know as a matter of fact with respect to the historical background. With respect to the legal implications of the Presidential Executive Order number 5, I would just like to draw our attention that there is what we call proclamation. Proclamation is also an official announcement of policy from the government and from the president, you know. But proclamations are aimed at those outside government, while executive orders are aimed at those inside government. Proclamation includes like flying our flag at half-mast, maybe because of a national catastrophe. But you know, when executive order is issued, that executive order is not being issued directly to the people in the private sector in the market. They benefit from it indirectly. But when there is proclamation, proclamation affects everybody. When they say flag should be at half-mast, it has to be. And I want to also understand that we have circulars. Circulars are also presidential directives, usually issued by the Secretary to Federal Government, issued by the head of service and other government functionaries on behalf of the President. They are also meant to be obeyed. But the reason they are not called executive orders is because they are not derived from Section 5(1) of the Constitution of Federal Republic of Nigeria. You also have presidential memos, memorandums, directives coming as memo, you know, and then the difference in this is that the procedure for preparing memos is not the same with that of presidential executive order. And memos encompass so many things that may not be derived again from the Section 5(1) of 1999 Constitution. But the reason an executive order must have its roots from Section 5(1) of 1999 Constitution as amended, or from any of the existing laws, is for that executive order to be legal. Because executive orders are meant to support existing laws and Constitution. They are not meant to be new laws being produced by the President without the National Assembly. It is for this reason that the Supreme Court cancelled one of the presidential orders, which they explained that that executive order is not in compliance with Nigerian Constitution. So that is a story for another day, but that's not what we're here for. So I would like to also inform you that following the establishment of the Strategy Implementation Task Office for the Executive Order number 5, we have developed guidelines for complaint and appeal, which was launched in April 2021. But as at now, we are still going around all the ministries trying to do sensitization to inform everybody as much as possible on the provisions of the Presidential Executive Order number 5. This cuts across all the ministries, departments, and agencies in the country. All of them have been briefed. They have been written twice. A number of them have responded. Some have not responded. So with respect to making complaints, we do not want complaints to come arbitrarily. or people will just wake up, you start writing about somebody where you have no substance. So because of that, the guidelines that you have to follow, so that when your complaint is received, it will be evaluated along those lines before any action is taken, is now a public document. It was launched by the ministry in April 2021, and it is now going around, being circulated. People who do not have copies of this document, including Presidential Executive Order number 5, and other important documents that you may want to know, if you have registered and you have your email address and all the information available to you here, it can be sent to you electronically. So we have basically step 1, which is about you first complaining to the person you think that is not doing the right thing. It's not that once you see that anything that is going wrong, you begin to write to the police, you begin to write to EFCC, you begin to write to CTOPIO 5. No. Approach the person you think that is not doing the correct thing. Maybe the person didn't even know. Maybe it was an oversight, and you and that person can discuss it and sort it out. And for this assignment, CTOPIO 5, a set on procurement matters that has come to your knowledge within 15 days. We will be interested in things that have happened about 365 days ago. 365 days ago. Now, if you begin to come and tell us about what happened 5 years ago, we will look at you very carefully to really know where you are heading to. Because we don't want people to work with malice. We want to do this work under, a very friendly atmosphere. In my own case, in course of doing this work, if I receive a petition against a public officer, I don't know about others who may be doing this work with me, but in my own case, I may decide to come and have breakfast in your house, and you will think that I'm coming to have that breakfast because I love you 100%. I'm coming to have that breakfast in order to draw your attention to what is happening. And if you are not careful, I may also involve your wife. And all of us will discuss it in order to find a solution. It is about working in harmony. We are not intervening to punish anybody. We are going to intervene to find solutions in order to see that the country is moving forward. Don't forget that what we want is to drive the youth, the women, the manufacturers to the center of Nigerian economy. Not to go to arbitration panel and spend 5 years. Not to go to high court or federal high court and spend 2 years pursuing a case. We are not interested in all those things. All we are interested in is having a heart-to-heart discussion on something that is going on. I'm sure we all love our children. I've never seen anybody that doesn't love his children. I've never seen a Nigerian that does not love his children. And that same love we have for our children is the same principle that we have to use in applying Executive Order 5. And every Nigerian child you see that child as your own, and love that child, and see what you can do to make that child better. So that even in your old age, you don't need all these pension scheme and all these things that we worry ourselves when we get old, so that we'll continue to get a pension. If you get old, those children will look after you. They will do everything to make sure that you are happy. And of course, it is when you fail in getting the attention of the person you think that is not doing the correct thing, that is when you can come and draw the attention of CTOPIO 5 to the issues, at stake, and so on and so forth. This procedure we are going to make public. I don't intend to use this medium to give you all the full details here because the time is very short. Finally, with respect to provisions of Presidential Executive Order number 5, it is also not very necessary for me to go through all the provisions of Presidential Executive Order number 5. I'm willing to give attention to anybody that calls us to do so, because that is the business, that's why we are being paid. A Presidential Executive Order number 5. But all I can tell you is that that document has about 18 sections. And the sections deals on a number of things. The first section deals on preferences to Nigerian companies in award of contracts. The second, on accreditation of companies for award of contracts, proper documentation for contract award, language of contract documents, development of individuals and corporate professional and production capacity. It deals with disqualification of Nigerians from contracts, maintaining database of Nigerian experts, particularly those in diaspora, for purpose of contributing in the implementation of this program. The application of expatriate quota, the use of local materials for production. If you look around during this expo now, you will find out that all the participants are trying to make sure that they show us to what extent they are using local materials for their production. The document also deals with establishment of the Presidential Monitoring and Evaluation Council, which is chaired by Mr. President himself, and the membership of the council include the Secretary to the Federal Government, the Vice President, ministers, and others. And then the fact that there will be periodic review of the order, and that the application of order is such that you read the order in conjunction with other existing laws. That is what makes the order a very wide document. Because anytime you are reading Presidential Executive Order number 5, don't just read the order. You read it in collaboration with NOTAP Act. Read it in collaboration with RMRDC Act. Read it in collaboration with EFCC Act, depending on the issue you want to deal with, so that you can get the full picture. Also, try and understand all the circulars, procedures, that have been set aside to be able to implement such a program. You cannot run away from it. There are also definition of terms, which are very important in this Executive Order number 5, which has to be followed. Because the understanding of Presidential Executive Order number 5, for instance, for a local company, is not just that you registered it in Nigeria. There are other criteria that you have to meet to be able to qualify as a local company. Now, the benefits of Presidential Executive Order number 5 to Nigerians. We have discussed this over and over and over and over. We need to improve our GDP. We need to improve our exports. We need to ensure that our foreign exchange is balanced. We need to make sure that we are producing and eating what we have grown. We are also doing everything to move Nigeria from consumption to production economy. All this put together shows that the Presidential Executive Order number 5 is very important to this nation. We are not giving a lecture here. This is more of sensitization, and I think I've taken enough of your time for the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Engineer Ibiam Obujofo, Fellow, Nigerian Society of Engineers, and National Coordinator and Chief Executive Officer of Sito Presidential Executive Order number 5. Engineer has really taken us around the three critical areas in the Presidential Executive Order number 5. But for want of time, at this point, we shall be entertaining only 2 questions. 2 questions, please, for want of time, and let's be brief about it. We have the floor. Okay, I think we're going to be gender sensitive. I can see a man and a woman. Okay, 1, 2. Okay, sir, you can come to the microphone. Please, no double-barreled questions, please. Just one question, please.
Thank you. I'm Tunde Balogun. I'm from the private sector. Thank you, sir. From your comment, I see from AFTA and World Trade Association, is there a bilateral asymmetrical relationship in terms of the content? When you look at AFTA and the World Trade Association. Thank you. Yeah, in terms of the World Trade Association and Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, is there a bilateral asymmetrical relationship in the two parties?
Doctor, you want to respond to that right now? Okay. Dr. Emeka Wanaka.
Thank you. In these things, there are always relationships if you explore them. I mean, for the WTO, there's the Trade Facilitation Agreement, for example, signed in 2017 by, now ratified by over 100 countries, including Nigeria. Nigeria's challenge has actually been implementing the provisions of the Trade Facilitation Agreement. So there are relationships between our WTO obligations, including things, agreements like the Trade Facilitation Agreement, as well as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Emeka. Madam.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please permit me to stand on the existing protocol. My name is Dr. Robert Phillips from Lagos State Institute of Science and Tech. I'm Director of Science Programs and Promotions. Mine is not a question, but a comment, because I was part of the team that sat for the stakeholders engagement for Southwest during the publicity on this Executive Order 5. I just want to reaffirm that Lagos State government is ready to collaborate and to participate in all the activities of the execution of this program, because in particular, Lagos State government is going into clearing the environment of a particular nuisance, which is named as Sagasun. And on this note, I want to appreciate the Commissioner of Minister of State for his comment this morning to collaborate and to make Lagos a hub. Because Sagasun is a seaweed that has been a nuisance in the past, and Lagos State government has gone into making very good use of this seaweed in producing feeds for animals and building construction products, and we have found that it's very rich in vitamin C and A. And in addition to that, before I leave the podium, Lagos Executive Order 5 has established a council, Lagos State Science Research and Innovation Council, where a council that has a mandate mainly to support projects that has full local, and I'm very sure that with that, the state will be able to support, and it's going to be a hope for the state. Once again, I want to appreciate Permanent Secretary. We were together at that program in Lagos, and she promises to work with us too. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Madam, from Lagos. Lagos is always setting the pace, and appreciating our Honorable Minister of State for what he has done. Please, a round of applause for the Honorable Minister of State once again. Let's also show some love to our great mother, the Permanent Secretary. Please appreciate her as well. Thank you very much, the woman, for a call. Thank you very much. At this juncture, we shall be going into the wrap-up remarks by our great mother, a woman of substance who has actually carved a niche for herself in career development. A great mother, a mother that knows exactly when her children are hungry. Please join me as I welcome to the microphone the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, Mrs. Winifred Udo, for her wrap-up remarks. Ma'am?
My principal, sir, Honorable Minister of State, Science, Technology and Innovation, directors of the ministry, directors general here present. Oh, I can see my favorite DG there. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The day is fast spent, and I wouldn't want to take too much of your time. Let me appreciate the management of the Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. Let me also appreciate Mr. President for signing this executive order, very important executive order 005, which will ensure that we believe in ourselves as Nigerians. We make use of what God has blessed us with to get what we want, and to lift our teeming population out of poverty, providing jobs for our vibrant youths, carrying women along, and improving our economy. And we agree that as a country, we have all it takes to be a first nation. We have all the resources, and we have all the manpower. We have all the brains, better than any other country in the world. So we just need to identify the gap, and Mr. President has done very well in signing this executive order that mandates us to look inwards, to use what we have to get what we need. And trust me, as Nigerians, as individuals, as groups, as organizations, as agencies, as stakeholders, if we begin to look inwards and we use this executive order number 5 as our guide, trust me, in less than 5 years, Nigeria will be turned around for good. And it is not also a surprise that this executive order implementation is domiciled in the Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. We do know that development in any area of human endeavor is driven by innovation, by science, by technology. So I want to agree with the National Coordinator to say that we should begin to comply with the directives, with the guidelines that his office has issued for us to actually leapfrog our development. Finally, I want to emphasize on the 5 C's as given to us by our principal, the Honorable Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation. And the 5 C's, in conclusion, are as follows: communication, cooperation, collaboration, cordiality, and coordination. I want to let you know that the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation stands on the coordination pedestal. We are to bring together all the stakeholders. We are to coordinate the activities. We are to give directives, direction. We are to encourage our agencies to synergize, to collaborate, to cooperate with one another, so that we reduce duplications, we reduce wastages, we reduce redundancies, and we're able to fast track from concept, from research to the market, and from the farm to the table in our homes. And with these few comments, I think I've been able to do justice to the wrapping up of this session. Thank you very much.
Can we put our hands together for another Department Secretary, Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, a great woman of substance. I described her earlier on. I said she is actually a woman of substance that has carved a niche for herself in career development. If you share the same thought with me, why don't you put your hands together and appreciate a great woman, please? Thank you very much all. At this point, I'd like to invite the microphone for his wrap-up, my leader, my great leader. He's a leader of leaders. He's actually a pillar of leadership, a political juggernaut. His presence this afternoon actually speaks volume. Do you know who I'm invited to the microphone? At times I find it difficult to call his name because he's my leader. This afternoon, I'd like to humbly invite to the microphone the Honorable Minister of State for Science, Technology and Innovation, a highly titled man, well recognized in his community and state. Please join me as I invite respectfully the great man, a pillar of leaders, the local man himself, Chief Henry Ikechukwu Iko.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon all. My permanent secretary, directors in the ministry, my friend, I have seen Dr. Henry, I have seen Dr. Mecca, I have also seen Professor Jasper Jumbo there, the line directors of various parastatals. I welcome you all this afternoon. It is with great pleasure that I stand here before you to say a few words. Presidential Executive Order number 5 is simply define the way Nigerians have to be doing things now. Mr. President has deemed it necessary to ensure that this Executive Presidential Order number 5 is in place. In a simple term, the President wants us to change from the normal way we are doing things to a better way through science, technology, and innovation. Means that we must begin to produce what we need. We must begin to ensure that what we are doing in the past is changed through science and technology. Of course, that is where the world is going. Through science and technology, industrialization will be enhanced. The way of doing things today will change. We must begin to use our local raw material that is scattered all over in making sure that we produce what we need and export most of them. Executive Order number 5, we have seen what we are doing today in science and technology. When you go through what everybody has displayed today, innovators, inventors, you will agree with me that Nigeria is a great country. We are going to be great again. By only synergizing with all agencies, working in synergy, working as a group in making sure that today's product is being exported to various countries. Nigeria is able and capable of doing it. The communication with all other agencies, parastatals, ministry must work together to ensure that we attend to today's global changes through science, technology, and innovation. I won't take your time today because the day have fast spent, but one thing I must leave for you today is that with all of you coming together, doing things differently through science and technology, that this country will be great again. We must attend to full industrialization through science and technology. But with Presidential Executive Order number 5, we must begin to satisfy our people. We must begin to work as a team. The communication must flow so that whatever thing we are doing today with true collaboration of all of us, directors, parastatals, looking inward, then this country will be export-oriented. We will move from consumption economy, which we have been doing in the past, to production economy. It's all about production, 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 and production. It's all about collaboration, 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 and collaboration. Communication must be intact between all the ministry, both private sector. We need private sector to collaborate with the ministry and inventors to ensure that we attend to full industrialization to this country. That will further force the dollar down. When you look at what is happening today, if we don't export, how can the naira have strength? But we have all it takes for export if we really embrace presidential order number 5, which all of us have agreed today that we must embrace. By so doing, Nigeria can be great again. I want to once more welcome you, all of you here today. We have gathered this one-week Expo. By Friday, we are going to be wrapping it up, and to tell you that together we can do it. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Please stand an ovation for the Honorable Minister of State, please. Yeah, thank you very much all. Together, we can do it better. These are words very, very emanating, very, very encouraging, coming from the great leader, the pillar of leadership himself, Chief Henry Ikechukwu Iko. If your hands are not too busy, why don't you put your hands together for the Honorable Minister of State, please? Thank you very much all. For some of you who have been asking me, Mohammed, how can we get the document? If you have not put down your name and your email addresses there, please do so, because the soft copy will be sent to us through our email addresses. The document, Presidential Executive Order number 5, is so rich. And what is he talking about? Like our leader has said, we need to move from being a consuming nation to a producing nation. Once again, appreciates our leader with a round of applause. So at this point, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, whatever has a beginning equally has an end. But before we go, I'd like to remind us that the technical session, which is going to, that has a lecture to be delivered by Dr. Henry this afternoon, please, we can just go and ease ourselves and come back. The technical session is very, very important, because the theme of this Expo is actually going to be discussed by our great presenter. So on that note, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Sir Henry Etiama, our project coordinator, Situ, to please come to the microphone and say a big thank you to those who have invested their precious time on this discussion on Presidential Executive number 5. Can we please welcome him to the microphone with a round of applause, please?
Thank you once more. The Honorable Minister, sir, my permanent secretary, most distinguished, the directors here present, Umar, Naji, and others, my Director General, Shetsku, other Director Generals here, and directors, the media, the academia, the industrialists, and all stakeholders within the STI ecosystem that are here. We thank you very much for your presence, and please always come around the ministry. The Permanent Secretary's office is open for you anytime, any day. The Honorable Minister, his doors are always open, and in fact, our Minister, who is unavoidably absent, is also open. Come to Shisco office and see the National Coordinator on anything about the Executive Order 5. This Order 5 is going to help the ministry engage all stakeholders. This ministry is not covering just the Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation. Given the STI ecosystem in Nigeria, this ministry also collaborates with all the 16 R&D institutions under the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, the R&D institutions in Ministry of Health, in National Planning, the organized private sector, and all the rest of them. So please feel free and come around and support us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful and we say thank you all, and thank you for this occasion.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir Henry Etiama, Project Coordinator, Situ. Please show him some love with a round of applause. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you. On that note, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, wonderful participants, we have come to the end of this discussion on Presidential Executive Order number 5. At this point, we shall be requesting the indulgence of all to please stand up for Nigeria's national anthem. After the national anthem, we shall have a good photograph with the Honorable Minister of State outside there, please. The national anthem. 1, 2, we sing the very first stanza. 1, 2. This afternoon during the technical session. Thank you very much, sir.